Gannon, and I'm mad about miniatures. Today, Amanda and Bree from HGTV's Biggest Little Christmas Showdown are here. This miniature competition show first aired in December of 2020. Finalists Amanda and Bree wowed us with their mini Christmas tiki boat and modern style. Let's go talk to Amanda and Bree of At Panda Miniatures. Hello, Amanda and Bree.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
So this is the first time I've had two people on. So I'll introduce you each individually, and then we'll just have a fun chat, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. So Amanda, were the lead miniaturist on HGTV's Biggest Little Christmas Showdown.
Yep, that's me. Hello.
Can you tell us just a little tiny bit about yourself before we get to your lovely partner, Bree?
Sure. So I am the main and the lead miniaturist of Panda Miniatures. I started this in 2016, and I've been making miniatures since then professionally. I do a lot of commercial work for brands like Coca-Cola and Disney. So I do that, but I also do some fine art miniatures as well. And I'm currently in a grad program for sculpture.
I can't wait to ask you about all of those things. Bree?
Hey, I am Bree. I'm Amanda's fiance and partner in Panda Miniatures. I am relatively new to the miniature making scene. I did help with the Biggest Little Christmas Showdown, and that was an extraordinary experience. And yeah, I've been also helping with the marketing for Panda Miniatures.
And you're also a rock musician.
I am a musician. I do play guitar, and I just recently picked up mandolin as well.
Wow. So last year, Christmas was a little hard, like looking at the Christmas season. There wasn't a lot to look forward to. And then I turned on the TV and I saw there was going to be a Christmas miniature competition. And it sort of made everything a little better. I know that reality shows aren't always filmed right at the time. So even though it was a Christmas show, you filmed it in August, right?
Yeah, so we filmed in July and August of 2020. They had reached out to me way back in December 2019, but it had to be pushed back, obviously, because of COVID. We were actually in the middle of moving, so it was a little hectic, but I felt it was really important for us to be on the show just to kind of bring miniatures to the general public and really show people what we do all the time.
And I think you did that. I didn't realize at the time. I assumed it had been filmed way in advance. COVID was going on, but there was no mention of COVID, right, in the show?
Yeah, that was something that they emphasized. They wanted to have a very heartfelt show. So we were just trying to be as positive as possible on set. Because it was in the middle of everything COVID related, we did have to get tested. When we were not on set, we had to wear masks, and everybody on set wore masks if they weren't like the talent. So it was a little strange to film in this kind of time, since I've also been on sets before this, behind the camera, obviously. But so it was a little bit of a change.
I can see it would be awkward, but I have to tell you, it was nice. Like, it was just a nice escape.
Agreed.
Bree was almost not your partner in the Biggest Little Christmas Showdown.
Yeah, that's true. Amanda did have another miniaturist friend in mind for the show. Kate is super sweet. She's a very talented artist, but she ended up moving out of the city also. So I'll let Amanda kind of chime in on the casting process.
Yeah, so the casting director was like, do you have anybody else that could be your partner? I was like, well, what about my fiance? Like, she helped me with the Coca-Cola project. She can make some miniatures. I think she'll be great. And they were all for it. They were very happy to have a couple, I guess. I think we were one of the only couples in the show. So that was really cool. It worked out great because obviously we lived together. So we were just in the studio every single day working on it.
It was so fun to see you guys work on it. It was kind of unclear. Did you have unlimited time to work on it ahead of time, a certain number of weeks?
Yeah, it was definitely limited. They contacted us at the end of May, so beginning of June. And I think we had 3 to 4 weeks to actually do about 60% of the miniature before getting to set. I was like, we're going to do 80% because I knew how long things take to make. I planned everything out, like everything that we were going to make pre-made before we got to set. And then things that we did on set were very manageable. Like all of the really tiny details I did beforehand, like wrapping all the presents and making the little cookies and all of that, because I knew it would just be like a waste of time on set. And I wanted to focus on other things like lighting and putting the landscape together. Yeah, we did definitely have limited time, and we actually even had less because we had a pre-planned vacation that we couldn't move. So we had like 3, maybe 2.5 weeks to actually work on it.
And the project was a Christmas-themed tiki boat. How on earth did you come up with a tiki boat for a Christmas theme?
An excellent question. When the show told us that the theme was going to be Mele Kalikimaka, we wanted to center our landscape and structure around a traditional Hawaiian Christmas. So the first thing that came to my mind was kind of the old-fashioned Elvis movies on a boat. And Amanda came up with this really cool, like, rock and roll Santa Christmas bar. And we thought, well, why don't we combine the two, do a tiki boat that has a bar inside? Yeah, the producers loved it. We loved the idea. And I think they definitely recognized that.
It was genius, just genius. And I loved it. And I got to see it in person at Philadelphia Manchuria, where I also got to meet you in person. So that was really cool. You know, talk us through, you get on set. You know, what was it like on set?
It was honestly crazy. You know, again, I had only been really behind the camera most of the time when I work on sets. So being in front of the camera and being directed to smile, act happy when you come into the workshop. That was the first thing we filmed, was us coming into the workshop. And it was just like, oh my God, I'm like one of those people on those competition shows that I'm always watching. Another show is like Making It. You know, that was one of my favorite shows at the time. And it's like, you always put yourself in that position. You're like, what would I do for this challenge? And it was just strange to actually be in that position.
I can see that. I think I shared my son Drew was on one of the first episodes of Holy Moly, which is the mini golf competition show. And he said when they filmed him coming out, unbeknownst to him, the production assistants had made all these Ed Sheeran We Love You signs, because the big stick was he looked a lot like Ed Sheeran, and they just, you know, really emphasized that. So he comes in, and there's all these signs that say, "We love you, Ed Sheeran." And he was sort of overwhelmed.
That's really funny.
You know, it's totally staged, but it was still funny.
Yeah.
So yes, that's the first thing I noticed. You all came out and you were like, "Hey, you know, so happy to be here."
Yeah, they also wanted us to carry like a tool bag, which I found really funny, because we did actually have all of our tools on set. They had some on set, like in the workshop, but we were allowed to bring our own stuff, which was awesome.
That is nice. That's funny. They wanted like a little Santa tool belt on everyone.
Yeah.
And for Drew, he had to wear the same outfit no matter how many times he showed up. Was the same true of you?
We had pre-planned outfits for each episode of the show, and our workshop outfits changed by day, but at the end of each filming day, we met in kind of like a private interview room. And that's where we did testimonials, the shots where Amanda and I are sitting next to each other and just kind of talking about our process and everything. So one of the biggest challenges, and this is a little bit of movie magic I'll spill, is that we had to learn how to speak in present tense, even though we're talking about something that we crafted hours prior. You may have seen a scene where we were talking about gluing something together. And during those testimonial interviews, we had to be like, all right, right now I am gluing this tiny piece of furniture. And that was a little challenging to learn how to do, but a lot of fun. And seeing it all come together in the final result was awesome too.
Well, you know, Brie, I'm glad you said that, because I always wonder, you know, they'll yell, "You have 3 minutes," and then they'll, you know, show like a little conversation of the two of you, like, "What do you think we should do?" And you're like, move. What you should do, you should hurry. So that's just sort of intercepted in there to make it more interesting.
But also, if we were doing something important for the scene, we had to explain it to the camera. Like there were camera guys like at each station, and we had to go through the whole process. So that was kind of interesting, kind of talking through while I'm doing it, which is what I do on TikTok, like tutorials. So it was kind of interesting to do that on set.
But I bet that was hard, especially with the time pressure sometimes. I mean, there must have been times when you're like gluing and you just kind of wish the cameras weren't there, right? I mean, I know it's the deal, but...
Yeah, especially when the leak happened, I was like, just go. Don't film this, but they have to because it's drama.
So, there was the leak, and I felt for you. I did. Even my husband, who at first wasn't really watching, was like, oh no, it's so good. Why is it leaking? But you actually shared with me before that the leak was actually even worse than it looked like on TV.
Seeing it on TV, I was like, wow, they kind of downplayed it a little bit because I had sealed up the entire thing up until like where the beach was on the landscape. And what had happened, I don't know if the tables were uneven or something, but the water had leaked up all the way up until the foam of the beach. So it was just leaking like crazy. It was leaking onto the electrical. They were doing judging at another station, and I had to tell our producer, like, you guys have to stop filming and mop this up because I'm worried that it's going to cause a fire or something. So it was definitely more dramatic in person. And I don't know if it was like the adrenaline or what, but ended up being fine. But it was very stressful. And seeing it on TV was weird because I'm like, wait a minute. It was definitely like a all day deal, not just like a couple of minutes or an hour or whatever that they showed.
I want to go see that again, Amanda, because I have to tell you, it seemed very dramatic to me the way they showed it. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, oh no. I mean, I just felt for you. So that it was even worse. That's amazing.
When the judges came into the room, we all had to be completely silent. And so as the cameras are moving and everything's going, it kind of, I would say in person, the best sound comparison was someone pouring a water bottle just on the floor. So it was that loud. It's echoing throughout the studio. And Amanda and I just had to put on a brave face and be like, yep, this is our project.
So I definitely don't remember it sounding like you were in a waterfall. Did they just like dampen that?
I think so. I don't even think they showed that or captured it on camera. Thank God.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
And you said there were some funny parts on camera with the judges that they didn't show or that they didn't have time for. Can you share that?
Speaking of the judges, June had previously, like the day before when they initially came around to do, some judging or just look at what we were doing, she was like, your stuff is so in scale. Like you're getting the scale down. It was like such great feedback from someone as talented as her. And then the next day was the leak, and she was like, this looks like the Titanic is sinking or something. She said some line and I was like, oh God, I was so embarrassed.
But luckily the Titanic line did not make it onto TV.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't, honestly.
Well, the Tiki boat certainly did not, when I looked at it close up at Philadelphia Manteria, did not look like the Titanic. It looked beautiful. I did notice that the landscape wasn't present. So tell us what happened with the landscape.
They actually ended up shipping the entire landscape and pontoon boat back to us. And I received this giant wooden crate. And after I opened it, the boat was intact. I think Amanda did a really good job with the structure to keep it solid. The landscape, however, was absolutely water damaged and a little rocked around. So we decided to part ways with the landscape, and we're so lucky to still have the pontoon boat intact.
It looked like most of the time you had very limited time, but you said for the first one, when you were making the Tiki boat, you actually were done a little early. And what did the producers tell you to do?
Yes, because I had done so much beforehand. Like both of us had worked on it for weeks, and I knew exactly how much time we were going to have like on set. We got done like, I would say 15 or 20 minutes before the end of filming. And the producers were like, just do something, add something to it. So we had like a little elf helper, and he was great. I think his name is Josh, right? And he was like adding little details to the sand, and like we were trying to like extend our work. Our landscape was large, but the actual structure was pretty small.
Which was smart.
Yeah, it helped us for sure. I think keeping it smaller.
Now, for the finale, you did not have extra time. Is that right? At least it sure didn't look like it.
Oh, yeah. We had limited time for sure. And we were right up to the last second doing stuff. And honestly, how the structure was put together, we didn't put the roof on until the last minute. And all the teams had this problem, but the lighting was really, really dark because the roof just made everything just dark. Last minute putting on the roof, we were like, oh no, there's no lighting. And I was just like, forget it. And, it kind of hurt us a little bit, I think, but.
I thought it was funny. They made a big deal that the other teams put like these tiny little lights in. But when they showed them, they didn't make any difference. They were all three super dark.
Yeah.
I felt like they should have just brought a big light in and showed us everything.
I agree. Totally agreed.
They probably didn't even realize it was going to be so dark, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they didn't have much experience with putting together miniatures, obviously. And there weren't a lot of lights available on set other than like fairy lights. And those are really hard to conceal or make look in scale. And there were set rules, like we couldn't drill into the walls or anything like that. So it kind of limited what we could do. I thought they were going to shine lights in there anyway. So I didn't really think it was a big deal, honestly.
I can see that.
We also used a very dark color palette. I mean, we used black, white, and red with a black velvet couch and black deer head and some panda ornaments that kind of got lost in the background. So these are all things you have to think about when you're designing an interior. And I feel like that was definitely a classic HGTV challenge for sure.
But I loved all the details. I loved the couch. I loved the guitar case coffee table, which you made, right, Bree?
Yes, I actually got the idea from my own guitar case coffee table that I made in real life, in people scale.
Oh, when you made that little coffee mug stain, I was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, that kind of detail.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Amanda's definitely very good at having an eye for making a space feel lived in. So it's the little details like that, like a coffee ring or, shoes by the door that really make a miniature interior come to life.
Like the suitcase that we had at the door, which Bree added I don't remember if they showed this, but she added like two little candy canes and a heart on top of them. And it was just such a cute detail that I wish that I had gotten that set back also, because I just love the suitcases by the door. It was just such a cute touch.
I didn't tell you I was going to do that either.
No, I saw it after she had done it. I was like, oh my God, that's perfect.
That's so cute. So they kept those houses.
They auctioned them off supposedly, but we didn't really hear anything about it. We only got our tiki boat back. I know some of the other contestants got the final house back.
So if you have our house, let us know.
Someday you'll be watching a movie or another HGTV show, and there will be your house in the background.
That would be awesome.
Oh, we would be so honored.
So you have Panda Miniatures, which you sell things, modern miniatures, spicy miniatures, which we'll talk about. And I actually bought a table from you at Philadelphia Manchuria, and it's actually my favorite miniature in the whole world.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it looks great in your space. I love the chairs you chose.
Oh, thank
to
you.
Accent them. Yeah, it looks really good.
As most of the people listening to this podcast know, I am obsessed with all forms of teal, turquoise, aqua. And so it's this beautiful table, and it has resin running down, and you actually... Well, tell us how you make this table. It's fantastic.
Sure. So I use the same techniques as the life-size versions. And it was kind of cool at Philly, actually, Philadelphia Miniatura. A lot of people were coming up to my table like, oh my gosh, my brother makes these river tables in life-size. This looks amazing. So I'm glad that the technique definitely showed. But basically what I do is I have a woodcraft store here in my town, and they sell exotic woods, different woods. And I use like walnut, cherry, bocate, different kinds. And basically I cut them on my saw, and I cut them down the middle so that I have two pieces. And then I use my Dremel to create the natural wood edge, or the live edge as they call it. Mm-hmm. And then I make a mold for each table, so each one is unique. I mix resin with mica powders. I pour it down the middle just like they do in real life. And then break apart the mold. I have to sand it. I have like a belt sander. I sand each one. It's really hard because the sander, even on the finest setting, the tables go very, very thin very quickly. It was a bit of a learning curve, especially using resin and then sanding resin and wood. So I sand them and then I do a final coat of resin on top. So it's quite a process, especially if I'm making a lot of them. And resin can be very finicky. It's a cool process though. I can't wait to make more. And people were so receptive to it.
They're just stunning. But what I hadn't remembered, I watched HGTV's Biggest Little Christmas Showdown again in prep for this interview. And you actually make a resin table there, which you say is the first time.
Yep.
And I love you, but it didn't turn out quite as well as.
No, yeah, it was because they didn't really have the right size wood there.
Right.
And I wanted to make one of those river tables that like flowed down, like it's like, I don't know what they're called, but I was using UV resin because I didn't have any normal resin and I didn't have time. But, it came out like as well as I expected it to, honestly.
It still looked really cool.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very brave of you. When I'm watching these reality shows, I always have ambivalence when someone says, I'm going to try this for the first time in this show. My first thought is, why? Why would you do something for the first time in front of millions of viewers? And then, of course, I'm like, good for you. That's so creative. It turned out so well. But I went through all of that while watching you.
Oh, thank you.
Time management, you've got to constantly be wondering, like, is this detail worth it? Is this worth it? I mean, that's just got to be a constant process that you're thinking about during the show.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we would go back to our hotel every night and I'd be like, what is something that could be different about our thing? I just didn't want to do the same old thing that, you always see at miniature shows or something. I just wanted to do something new and modern and fun. And, even if we didn't win, it was something that I had never tried before and we tried it. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But, the resin table, I was like, I just thought about it for a year and I was like, I really want to redo that with the proper wood and the proper resin. And it ended up working out really well.
It did. Well, I have to say, you certainly don't do the same old things. I mean, your work is so modern and so cool. And you actually have been doing it now for how many years?
Professionally, 2016, 6 years.
5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years, yeah.
So when you started, was there even any other modern furniture?
There wasn't. I was in college and I was an RA, so I had a little bit of money. I was paid for that. So I was like, you know what? Let me get my first dollhouse kit. I had really been into miniatures as a kid, and my grandmother had a dollhouse that I used to play with when I visited her. And when she passed away, actually in 2016, I inherited her dollhouse, and I've been renovating it for 6 years. You know how long renovations take on even a dollhouse. But before I inherited that dollhouse, I had bought a dollhouse kit and I just started putting it together and I fell in love with it again. It was kind of like a resurgence of my childhood memories. But I noticed that a lot of the things that were on even Etsy at the time just weren't modern. It was all Victorian stuff, which is fine. That's an aesthetic. But I was just like, I have to make everything myself. Which is fine. I love scratch building, but I really wanted like other miniaturists that created modern miniatures, which now there are so many, it's amazing. It's great. And I do buy from other miniaturists a lot. But at the time, again, I really didn't see naughty miniatures, like adult miniatures even. So that's kind of how I got started on Instagram. I made an Instagram account just for my miniature stuff. And I started posting, like, I made little bongs and, like, little tampons and things. And it kind of snowballed, got a lot of followers very quickly because the miniature community on Instagram was really blowing up at that time. I was in a couple of gallery shows. I just started kind of getting work. My first gig I ever got was Swarovski Crystals. I made 4 dioramas for them for their flagship store in Times Square. And that was, like, my first professional miniature gig. And then from there, my resume just kept building. And right before the pandemic, I worked on Gabby's Dollhouse for Netflix. And that was an amazing opportunity. I worked under Nixon Gerber. It was just like people that I have been like idolizing and following for years, working under them or meeting them in person. It's just great. I don't know. I just love the community and it's such a part of my life that it's kind of crazy when people ask, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, I make tiny things. I don't know.
Well, that's a lot to unpack there. You mentioned a lot of interesting things, but
sorry.
Me being me, no, that's good. Me being me, I got to go back to Swarovski and the little bling.
Yes. So the dioramas I made were Oscar stages, 4 Oscar stages, and they sent me about 1,400 Swarovski crystals in all
Yay!
sizes. Yeah. Oh my God. It was incredible. Just bags and bags of, I mean, I had never held that many crystals in my life. So it was really cool. And they just said, put it on everything.
I love that. What a great challenge.
Yeah. It was really cool. And I still have some to this day.
I've been known to bedazzle a couple jackets and some jeans with them. So they're still being utilized and appreciated.
Yeah. Years later.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, it's so interesting to hear. I mean, when you're in high school or college and you talk to the college counselor, they don't say, hey, have you considered becoming a professional miniaturist? That's not something I was ever asked. So it's so great to hear that you are getting commercial assignments.
Yeah, I love doing it. Currently, I'm in grad school. I'm actually getting my MFA in sculpture.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a journey and I love it. And I definitely think that miniatures are an art form. They can be a hobby and an art. And I think you'll definitely see more of that in the future, just as fine art instead of rather just a hobby.
Oh, I agree. Can you tell us a little bit about the Coca-Cola assignment? What did you do for that?
Yeah, that was an amazing experience, actually. They wanted 4 miniature sets, one for each brand. So the Coca-Cola brand has, it's like a family of brands. And I actually worked with a few other miniaturists in the community, Aaliyah, Tiny Doors Atlanta, and Mighty Oak. They're a studio. And we all did 3 to 4 of the miniature brands under Coca-Cola. And basically, I created these sets. Each one had a different theme based on the drink. So like Mellow Yellow, for example, they wanted a cabin in the woods on a lake, with a canoe and all that. So each brand had their own identity. So that was kind of challenging, doing something different for each brand, I guess. But it was awesome. They flew me down to Atlanta. I was on set working directly with the art director and the set dressers. It was my first time actually on a set.
Were they shown as miniatures or were they used to look like real sets?
So it was for a campaign called Sip and Scan. If you notice on any Coke product, there's like this tiny label that you can scan and it takes you to a website. So that was kind of the shtick. It was like you scan it and it takes you to this miniature scene and it's interactive and you can click on things and there would be like a hand that would come in and do something. So each set had a different, the hand would do something different. It was awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What a cool idea. So, being a miniaturist is still, not an ordinary thing to do. Tell us a little, Bree, when you found out Amanda was a miniaturist, tell us about how that happened and how you felt about it.
Sure. So Amanda and I met at our college. We both went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, where I was studying advertising and marketing, and she was studying art history and museum professions. And so when she and I were courting and getting to know one another, she invited me over to her dorm. We get to the door of her dorm, and Amanda just hesitates before she turns the doorknob and looks at me, and she goes, I have to tell you something. I don't know what to expect. Maybe she has a boa constrictor in her room or a crazy roommate. I don't know. So I'm like, okay, Amanda, what's going on? She proceeds to very cautiously tell me that she's obsessed with dollhouses and miniatures. The relief I felt, I was like, okay. Yeah, that's cool. So we proceed to walk into her dorm room, which was the size of a closet. I mean, it's New York City, very tight living quarters.
Yep.
And in the center of the dorm is this ginormous dollhouse. And I noticed that her bed was fairly high and on risers. I'm looking at the dollhouse, admiring the craftsmanship and really kind of starting to get into it. And Amanda goes, but wait, there's more. She lifted the bed skirt on her really tall bed, and underneath were bins after bins after bins of miniatures. So we ended up just spending the rest of the day sitting on the floor of her dorm going through them, and I was so impressed with, oh wow, look, these are tiny shoes, and this is a tiny tape deck, and this is tiny this and that. It was so cool because I never thought I would ever really get as interested in miniatures as we both currently are. But it just brought me back to elementary school and sitting in the schoolyard and, swapping miniatures with my friends. And it was really cool. It's been a really fun ride ever since.
Well, Amanda, that's probably the very best reaction you could have hoped for, right?
Yeah, I was always hesitant back then because I had a lot of exes that were not too crazy about the miniature stuff. So I was kind of like prepared to defend myself, basically, with a new person. But Bree ended up being great. She even came with me that year to Philadelphia Miniaturia, and she just fell in love with miniatures. She bought more miniatures than me that year, I think.
Guilty as charged. That is true.
Which is awesome.
It is very tempting. You go there and you're like, I'm only going to buy what's on my list or this much. And then you get there and you're like, I need it all.
For sure. I always refer to it as the Comic-Con for miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, that's perfect. That's exactly what it is. So, Amanda, earlier you mentioned art, and I do think that miniatures at a certain level are totally art. And the example that in my mind is actually of your piece. I was walking into Philadelphia Miniaturia, and I saw your hoarder cabin.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautifully done. And I instantly said to myself, there's a message here. This means something to her. It made me think, which is, after all, I think what art does.
Yeah, for sure. I created the Hoarder's Porch. Initially, it was actually a kit, like a from scratch kit from a miniature club that I was in New York City. It was supposed to be like a shabby chic porch or something. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not me. So I was like, how can I make this relate to my life and like my childhood? Maybe I'll do like a hoarder's porch. And I kind of worked on it on and off for about 3 years until this past year. I was like, I'm like looking at it like maybe I should finish it. And that's when I started TikTok and I, documented the whole journey on TikTok. That's when I kind of realized that not a lot of people do these miniature pieces that have like a meaning behind it. I've seen a lot of abandoned miniatures or miniatures of dilapidated houses and things, but they don't really have like a meaning behind it. It's just sort of like, this is a cool looking house. So I wanted something that related to me, but also related to somebody else. And I definitely had that happen with my video of the Hoarder's Porch. Got almost 4 million views. And I had thousands of comments of people just telling their stories. Wow, this is how I grew up. My parents are suffering through this right now. So it was very cathartic for me to make this miniature piece just for my own kind of healing process, but also it was nice to kind of show something that's usually not typically shown in miniature.
Oh, for sure. You said you tried to represent different types of hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to expand on that a little?
Yeah, so the porch isn't an exact replica of any house because it was just a kit that I kind of kit bashed. I didn't want it to look like any particular house. I kind of wanted it to be like the general idea of hoarding. And that's why I included different types of hoarding, like paper hoarding or cat hoarding or toy hoarding or Christmas decoration hoarding. Because there's all sorts of types and people hoard for different reasons. Kind of wanted it to relate to a lot of people. And just the sadness of it all, the eviction notices and everything's sort of falling apart. The window is broken. I like adding little things that as you look more into it, there's more of a story there. The children's toys. It's sad when you really think about it and look at it a lot closer. So I think that resonated with a lot of people.
When I looked at it, I saw it more generally as, all the hoarding we did for the pandemic and things like that. And I think I shared with you this interpretation, and that's not what you meant, but, we're all free to interpret it how we want, right?
Exactly. That's what fine art is really about. An artist can have a message, but how it relates to you is open for interpretation.
It did bring back some painful memories of me going through my parents' stuff and sort of realizing that some of the stuff that my mom and dad treasured is now, for better or worse, trash. And that was hard. But at the same time, that's what good art does. It relates to you personally. It makes you think.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I want to do with my work, which is what I'm developing in my MFA thesis right now. Just kind of making work that is about my experiences in my childhood, but also artwork that people could relate to, especially miniature scenes, especially without dolls or anything in it. Something that looks like somebody just left the room is kind of the miniature scenes that I like to make. that the deeper you look into it, you're like, oh, there's a story here. What's going on? Just like Bree's coffee table with the mug stain on it. It's like, who left the mug stain? What is their story? That kind of thing.
Right. And you have an exhibit now at a gallery too, right?
Yes. I guess it's kind of like a group and a solo exhibition in the Museum of Museums in Seattle. It's a museum where they have like a bunch of mini museums inside. And the Supperfield Museum of Contemporary Art is a actual miniature dollhouse museum. And I'm in the top floor, and my piece is called Shortage. And I suspended all these different types of items that were in shortage in the past 2 years during the pandemic and afterwards. I suspended them in resin and put them in front of a nature. It was about consumerism, but also how limited our resources are now. And the shortages kind of put that into perspective for some people, I think.
I know you showed toilet paper. Were Lysol wipes in there?
Yes, and toilet paper, chicken wings, gasoline, coins. There's a huge coin shortage right now. And I forgot what the other ones were.
I have to admit, I did not know there was a chicken wing shortage. That is breaking news for me.
It was during 2020. I don't think it's that much of a deal now, but in 2020 there was a little bit of a chicken shortage.
Wow. Okay. For me, the wipes is what really hit me. I mean, I probably didn't see wipes for 6 or 7 months, at least. I'm a little older than you, but you have a grandmother who talks about, who saves the same piece of tinfoil from the Depression or something. And I kept saying to my husband, when I'm old and I've kind of lost it, I'm going to go around saying, remember when we had to use one wipe, for 6 months?
It's so true.
Wow. And they're going to be like, Grandma's crazy. And it's be like, no, they didn't have wipes for a year. That's all I could think of every time I saw one.
For sure.
Because for me, I guess I managed to get other things. That was the one thing we just could never quite get our little hands on.
We were living in Brooklyn at the time, so we were at the epicenter for a while. And it just sort of like you start thinking about like, is it worth it to like be in a job that you don't like? I kind of want to do what I want to do. I think a lot of people came to that realization being home for months on end. There were a lot of negatives to COVID, but there were a lot of positives that came out of it too.
I think you had to look for the positives, but yes, I think we kind of forced ourselves to make it. I dabbled a little with miniatures. I'd always been fascinated them, but I don't think I would have done it. And I mean, I was staring at all this time and I was like, I have to find something to do or I'm going to drive my entire family crazy. And that's how I got into miniatures. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. Your story is one that I've heard a lot, actually, especially at Philadelphia Miniatura. We had people coming up to our table like, I have never been to a miniature show before. I never even knew about it before finding you on Instagram because I was stuck in home all day. Very common, I think, for people to get into this hobby because they just had time, which is crazy and awesome at the same time.
It is true. And, when I first started this, my biggest fans started being in like the cold countries, The podcast was like #1 in Sweden, in Brussels, all the places where they have a long winter, So I know, Amanda, that you won a scholarship to go to the Guild School this past summer.
I did, yeah. I had been applying for the Guild School probably since I got into miniatures. I finally won the Bonnie Back scholarship, and she was an alumni of FIT, so that was really cool. And she had been involved in the miniature community for a long time, so when she passed away, her family set up this GoFundMe scholarship, and it paid for me and Chris Toledo from I Build Small Things. So him and they also had a couple more scholarship students because they hadn't had the Guild School 2020. So they had the most scholarship students that they ever had because of that. And it was an amazing experience. I took Troy Schmidt's pottery class and also Tim Craft's soldering and chandelier class. And it was an awesome experience. It was in Castine, Maine, which was beautiful. Bree came with me as my guest. She explored the town a little bit. And they're really cute. It's been 40 years that they've been going to Castine. So all the people in town are like, the mini people are here. It was really cool.
Well, the mini people, I mean, you are 100% of their tourism, correct?
Pretty much.
And Bree, I kind of love that when I did see you in pictures of that, you were sort of eating or, snacking.
Oh, for sure. I exclusively came just for lobster night. IGMA really knows how to throw a party, and lobster night is a tradition. Amanda and I weren't really sure what to wear. Is this a formal event? Is it going to be casual? Is it jeans or a blazer? We go, and everyone who had creative bones showed up in lobster dresses and lobster ties. They really make the most out of it. We learned how to eat our first lobsters.
That's so fun. No one had told me that before. So if you go, make sure you bring something lobster printed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and we're going again next summer. So we'll definitely be prepared this time. But it's great. I mean, if you have the opportunity to go, I highly recommend.
Do you feel you learned techniques there that you wouldn't be able to learn other places?
I learned so much. The pottery class was 36 hours. So that was my main class during the week. And I had done miniature pottery before, but just, learning it from a master potter who does miniature and full size, it was awesome just to ask, different techniques. How do I make a lid in this size? It's just something that you can't get from watching a YouTube tutorial or something. I think it's more about the technique really than what you actually make there. I'm definitely excited for next year. I'm taking an inlay wood table class. Victorian tables aren't my style, but still I can apply what I learned to modern and other things that I want to make. So.
Oh, I can't wait to see what you do with that. But the idea of these teeny tiny little pieces.
I know.
What level do you think you have to be to enjoy and get something out of the school?
You can be any level. They have a lot of the classes are beginner. There are some intermediate classes, like the one that I originally wanted to take, the guitar making class, was intermediate to advanced. So on the descriptions that you get in the catalog, it will tell you if you have to be a little more experienced with certain tools. But most of the classes are for beginners, people with no experience with the tools or anything.
Do you think that's true? I mean, when I read beginner, I'm like, but do they really mean a beginner like me? Or do they mean a beginner like you? That's, in my mind, not a beginner at all.
Right. Honestly, the instructors are so talented and they're so good at teaching and really breaking it down. Even if you don't finish the project, they'll help you every step of the way. I had people in the pottery class who had never touched any kind of wheel or clay. And in the end, we all made gorgeous pots. So I think that even if you're not skilled in something, the instructors are so good that they'll teach you. You will learn something.
Okay. So I can be an actual sort of beginner.
Yes, actual beginner. Yeah, that's the whole point of taking the classes. And you have a whole week.
Right.
So it's not like you're just doing it one day. You're doing that every single day. So 5 days of the week, you're doing this one class. So you really get to know the instructor, the other students, and whatever you're working on. It's honestly a once in a lifetime kind of thing. I can't wait to go back next year.
We've made so many incredible connections and new friends, and we were so thrilled to see them again at Philadelphia Miniatura when they came to visit.
Philadelphia Miniatura was the first big show I'd been to and the second show at all. And just meeting the people that I talked to on Instagram and seeing all the things in person, never mind the goodies you come home with. It's really hard to describe how much fun that is.
It's so much fun. I've been going since 2015 as just a guest. And then we were vendors in 2019, and this was our second year selling, and it was even better than before, just seeing people that we knew. It's been a while since we were able to be at a show, so it was great. We had a blast. And just the younger crowd that came from Instagram and TikTok, it was just really nice to see a younger generation get involved in the miniature community, because we want this to continue for many, many years.
Yes, we need new blood. We need people, being enthusiastic about it and making miniatures that are relevant to them, whether it's the Hoarder's Porch or modern minis or tiny little tampons. Whatever speaks to you, right?
Exactly.
So, Bree, what is your favorite and least favorite miniature type of work to do?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. I would say, as an enthusiast, my favorite miniatures to collect are 1/12 scale guitars because it relates back to my passion for music. My favorite miniatures to make, I guess, just sentimental things. One thing that comes to mind was our first anniversary. Yeah, it was our 1-year anniversary dating each other. I made Amanda a tiny box, and when you opened it, it had about 1/12 scale calla lilies in it that I had made from an old paper clip, pieces of paper kind of like wrapped around it. And I know that's Amanda's favorite flower. So stuff like that. My least favorite miniature to make, I guess I'm not very proficient in woodworking, so as Amanda is. So anything that is really intricate, sometimes I'll feel overwhelmed and I don't have as much patience.
Well, Amanda, I feel like you're so proficient in anything. Is there anything that you really struggled with or still struggle with or wish you could learn how to do?
I honestly don't have patience for miniature food. That's the one type of miniature I actually collect artisan pieces of because people make way better food than I ever could. So that's what I buy at shows and stuff. Honestly, my least favorite part of a process is to actually build a structure. My favorite thing is to add the details. The hoarder's porch was when the structure was done, I went ham with the details because that's like my ultimate favorite thing, to add like the little tiny papers, little bit of ash on the ashtray. That kind of thing is just like, that's my bread and butter, and that's what I love doing.
Well, that's the art of it. That's what distinguishes it. Well, it's been so great talking to you both. I just loved you both on the Biggest Little Christmas Showdown, and I just love everything you guys make. I think you've really contributed to pushing the boundaries of making it more modern and making it art. And, that's a really important contribution.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's so nice to talk about my work. I like that people relate to it. I just want to continue developing it. It's all about the escapism into, these little worlds that we create. I just love other miniaturists and that we can talk about this stuff. Not everyone is a miniaturist, so it's like hard to talk to people about it. They just don't get it. So I really appreciate you doing this podcast and having people talk about it because it's just so cool. I love it. I love what we do.
And you're right. You have to find your people. My friends are incredibly patient with me. They're super good at pretending to be interested.
Same.
But there's nothing like talking to someone who knows what you mean. There are lots of negatives to social media, but one of the positives is it does allow people with very specialized interests to get together. What's wonderful about miniatures is there's so many ways you can do it, and I just never tire of hearing how different people interpret it and work it into their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And social media is such a great way to see all kinds of miniatures from every country and every background that you can think of. I just love it. I love the community, and I love being a part of it.
It's been great that this community's got together. So thank you, Amanda and Bree. We can't wait to see what else you do. So thanks for taking the time to explain what you do and why you love it.
Thanks so much for having us. We've had such a good time talking with you and getting to know you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye.
Take
Have
care.
a good week.
Thank you. Wasn't it great talking to Amanda and Bree? My next episode is Tuesday, January 25th, with Christine from At Paper Doll Miniatures. Christine has been making modern minis for 13 years, and many of my guests and fellow miniaturists have said that she was the reason that they were inspired to get into miniatures. So join me on January 25th as I talk to Christine. In the meantime, remember, there are no rules in your dollhouse except the ones you create for yourself. Goodbye!